Hello, everyone. My name is Xiao Qilin, and I'm the co-organizer of the microfinance workshop in Chicago here. So it's my great honor to introduce the distinguished fellow of our society, Professor Nobuhiro Kiyotaki. So Nobu doesn't really need introduction. He has been a leader for us for many decades in macroeconomics and finance, and has made enormous contribution to the field. And when I went to go through Nobu's Vita, it seems that every paper that Nobu writes is path-breaking. So just to give you some examples here, in the super influential article, Credit Cycles, which has been actually cited here quite a lot in our workshop, Nobu, joined with John Moore, has showed us actually small shocks in the economy can be amplified into large output fluctuations through the channel of credit constraints. And it has important implications for us today to understand the recent financial crisis. Additionally, in another influential article, joined with Olivier Blanchard, Nobu demonstrates that the importance of monopolistic competition tries for us to understand the aggregate demand multiplier. So this work actually lays out the foundation for the recent new Keynesian models. So furthermore, Nobu's work on money, together with Randall Wright, which is now widely recognized as Kiyotaki Wright model, also has made a significant contribution to the monetary economics. So on the last note, recently Thomson Reuters actually lists Nobu as among the Hall of Citation laureates who are very likely future winners of the Nobel Prize in economics. So we really wish that our distinguished fellow for our society might be a good predictor for that. Without additional words, friends, please join me welcoming Nobuhiro Kiyotaki. Thank you.
Slightly overwhelming introduction, actually. When I was a graduate student, actually, not this one. When I was a graduate student in the second year, Olivier Blanchard asked me, what do you want to do for your thesis? And I said, I want to introduce financial friction and banking to macro. And Olivier said, that's not interesting. So then my plan B was the monopolist competition. So the monopolist competition was accident, actually. And then after I wrote the paper with Olivier, I went to Minnesota to give a talk on that paper. And then I know this is not the Minnesota type paper, but I tried my best. And then at the end of my talk, I asked, do you have more questions? And then at that point, Neil Wallace said, is that it? That was his question, actually. So that's after devastating that question, I said, okay, I have to do better than this. So I started money as a medium of exchange. And actually, gradually, I tried to go back to my old idea to introduce the financial friction. Actually, basically, money, always you need some kind of frictions. If you look at the random matching model, there is a borrowing constraint, actually. And today's talk actually related to the earlier two talks too. And we are going to do is try to think about financial panic with the financing constraint faced by the bankers. Thank you. So the task is try to develop a simple macro framework. The trick of the get citation is develop the model which other people use. And so that you can get some tax revenue from developing the framework. The way we do is to basically we try to understand that this global recession as well as Japanese recession too. And then the first happening is the fundamental is getting worse and worse. And the US case, it's from 2006. Things get worse. And then Lehman moment happens. We had a sudden collapse of the financial system. Japanese case, it was slower. Our bubble burst around 91, 2. And then the things are getting worse and worse. And then 97, 98, we had a Lehman moment, a big chunk of the financial sector collapsed. And so we want to have a two-phase, like a fundamental gets deteriorating, and then certain point it will have a sort of bank run. And this bank run is not the diamond dip style bank run, it's more like a rollover risk. The short-term funding stops, not just depositor prematurely withdraw the cash. So then by doing this, we try to understand how the crisis leads to the deep recession, and also we can talk about the public policy. Always the macro is related to the policy debate. So that's and conventional financial accelerator model is typically started as a local approximation around the steady state. And we try to understand the propagation mechanism of that. And the more recent variety takes account the occasionally binding financing constraint more seriously. Luigi's work is one of these, and people like Bruno Meyer, Sanikov, Hay, Krishnamurti, and also Enrique Mendoza's the emerging market crisis, they have occasionally binding financing constraint. And turns out to be this will generate the nonlinear dynamics, like moving from unconstrained region to constrained region. Suddenly, the financial accelerator go up a lot. But if you take account the precautionary saving motive of the potentially constrained agents, that tends to smooth out a little bit of nonlinearity. And then we think we should put this occasionally binding part as well as the financial crisis, like a rollover risk, into the one model. We can get more action in the financial collapse. So that's the purpose of the paper. By the way, this is a paper with Mark Gertler and also Andrea Prestipino. So feel free to interrupt for clarifying questions, not the devastating question like Neil Wallace. Okay, so this is a new Keynesian model because of we want to have some talking with the central banker, but other than that, it's not the most important part, but still it's some ingredient. And the difference from standard model is we have a banks, and also we are having the capital accumulations. And the capital is accumulated from beginning, KT, to the end of the period through the investment. I is the investment. So this is the convex adjustment cost or concave return of investment. And capital after use, it depreciates at rate delta. And this capital at the end, S we call, is either intermediated by bankers or household. So SB fraction of capital is held by the bankers. All the financing we are going to consider here is equity financing. We basically add the financial friction faced by the bankers, so we subtract the financial friction held faced by the business. And effectively, you can say the business and the banker is the same thing, actually, because of their bodies. But the household is a separate agent, and I will tell you why. Basically, the household is not as good as banker in financing investment or managing the capital stock. And so between today, the end of today, and the beginning of tomorrow, there is a capital quality shock. This is the driver for the fluctuation, actually. Instead of TFP shock, we use the capital quality shock because of simply it hits the balance sheet quite big directly. And then finance people use the capital quality shock all the time. So this is macro finance. So then, and on top of that, there is an inefficiency. Basically, if the household is managing the capital, it depreciates faster. So this is the inefficiency due to the household financing. The Grunemeyer-Sannikov used this kind of the frictions. And we can introduce also alternatively, like if household try to manage the capital stock, they might require extra resources, extra cost. It's similar things. And we do have some sort of the situation like most of the capital stock up to the gamma is actually, you don't need extra resources. So it's like a publicly traded company, which the household doesn't have too much disadvantage in intermediating relative to the bankers. This way. But if the household try to intermediate more than gamma fraction of the assets, then it costs more, and there is a complex cost of. So this is generating a bit of the fire sale. If the banker starts selling the assets to the household, beyond the gamma fraction, the price starts falling. And the rate of return for the banker is straightforward, like buying equity, the capital Q. Return is the rental price of capital as well as the resale value of capital together with capital quality shock. But the household try to do the same thing. Beyond the gamma, there is extra accelerating the depreciations. So that's the difference. And how the banker finance this investment? The banker is going to finance using the deposit contract. Deposit contract is basically the non-contingent contract if you don't have any bank run. So they pay the non-contingent return bar next period. But if you have a bank run, actually the banker is going to liquidate all the assets and then pay as much as they can. So X is like a coverage rate. So that's the bank's the deposit contract. R bar, by the way, in the main model is fixed in terms of the real. And at the later, we are thinking, like now we're trying, it's a contract in nominal, like a typical deposit contract. So then we can talk a little bit of debt deflation sort of things related to Luigi and Guido's earlier paper. And but basically the run is typically happening not because of just insolvency, but also illiquidity. And this is not the kind of most fundamental model of the bank, because why bank exists? And our answer is banker is good at intermediating the capital stock, which is kind of assumption, and the result is kind of close. And why banker is vulnerable? The reason is liability is non-contingent until you default. And so this is like not the deep theory, but it's more like a quantitative theory and which other people can use. And if the bank, so you can see the household can finance the business. There are two ways. One is trust the banker deposits to the bank, and the banker is going to put together deposit together with their net worth to finance the business. And the alternative is the bank household directly buying equities. But they are not as good as the bankers because of they have extra depreciations. So this is the debt weight cost. And so this summarizes the economy, actually. And you can say, okay, why do you call it banks and business? Because there is no financial friction. You can call it this bank as a business too. So, Fabrizio said, I want to consider this bank as a business. It's true. There is no distinction between bank and business. Okay, and the household, they are going to choose the consumption and the labor supply, and as a portfolio, how much to consume, or how much to deposit, or how much to buy the equity, and subject to the budget constraint. And wage income net of the tax and return on deposit, which can depend upon the bank run or not. CD realized deposit return can be risky depending on the bank run. And this is the return on equity, which is basically resale value and the rental price. But when they buy the equities, you have a capital quality shock as well as extra depreciation. And when you take the first order conditions, Standard Euler equation about deposit has a two component. One is without bank run, they are going to get paid by the promised return. This is the stochastic discount factor. But if you have a bank run with probability T, which is going to be endogenous, then the return is coverage rate times the total promised return. This is the realized return. And the stochastic discount factor will be different because of consumption will be different too. While the equity, it has a standard Euler equation, except the equities return for the household have an extra resource cost, extra depreciation. Okay. What about the bankers? There are a lot of bankers, and there is a stochastic retirement. Instead of the OLG model, we decided to do the long-lived banker, but they retire with probability 1 minus sigma. And when they retire, they are going to consume. And the utility function is linear in the expected consumption. So this is the probability you survive until day t plus I, and then retire for the first time day t plus I. And then at that time, you consume everything. So this is a simple life of bankers. It's a bit like us. You just walk. You don't eat anything except for conference dinner or something. And then when you retire, you have a big party and then say goodbye. So that's the life of the banker. And when the banker retire, there are newcomers. And the first period, they work as a worker and they get a little bit of wage income and then starts the business with that. So, and then the bankers' net worth for the continuing people is coming from bankers' return on equity minus the return to the depositors. And this is the key diagram for the bankers. Basically, after stochastic shock to the capital quality realizes, banker is going to raise the deposit together with the net worth to buy the assets, equity. And this is the risky assets. And banker has if the banker has a run, actually net worth is going to wiped out, and then they disappears. And if they manage to continue, there are two ways to do the business. One is to continue the business and repay the debt, and then continue next period. But the other business is diverting the funds. So basically steal the money. This is, again, the very crude model of banks. The reason bank is there is that they are good at it and good at doing the business comparing to the household. And why banker is financing constraint? Because the banker may steal the money, which might be true, but in any way. So this is a crude moral hazard. Basically, the incentive constraint says the amount banker can divert for personal use cannot exceed the continuation value to do the business for the next period. And what is the franchise value V? It's basically this guy. The expected value of the dividend in the future. And but everything is constant return, incentive constraint, budget constraint, and also the flow funds constraint. So you can think about everything into the leverage choice. So basically, the franchise value relative to net worth, you can call it the Tobin skew for the banker because of this is the market value of banks, and this is the replacement cost of the balance sheet. And that Tobin skew is a discounted value of next period net worth. But the net worth is valued in consumption value if the banker exit with probability 1 minus sigma, or sigma probability, they can use it to next round business, which is tomorrow's Tobin skew. So stochastic discount factor, despite of linearity, actually is a very volatile animal, actually. So we had a lot of trouble in generating stochastic discount factor. It's very volatile. But turns out to be here, the Tobin skew is all over the place, despite of risk neutrality. So we can have a pretty serious spread. And the spread between banks' assets over the deposit can be pretty significantly positive in equilibrium. And the leverage constraint is franchise value, unit of net worth, is the theta flag cannot exceed the theta fraction of the leverage multiple. And this is also the break-even condition for the household. Remember the household Euler equation says that this is the household required return of as a depositors, and the banker knows that. So this is the household conditions. And when the banker changed the leverage multiple, it will change the recovery rate. This recovery rate on the condition of bank run is the next period return is going to be conditional on the next period asset price and on the condition of bank run. And the bank run price is no longer the same as normal price. And I will tell you how to compute the bank run asset price, but it will depend upon bank run's asset price as well as the leverage multiple of this period. If you have a higher leverage multiple, recovery is going to be lower. As a result, the household wants the higher promise to return in order to cover the loss. And in principle, actually, the leverage multiple should affect the probability of run or default too. But we are going to look at the sort of symmetric equilibrium and in the neighborhood of symmetric equilibrium, which is basically whether run happens or not depend upon aggregate conditions. And the asset price is the biggest component of the returns. As a result, you change a little bit of leverage multiple, it doesn't change the systemic run. And so impact of your leverage choice on the default or not is negligible. And actually, if you go all the way to my questions, like do you have any Buffett? And then it will be different, actually. So we are looking at in the neighborhood of cities, the symmetric equilibrium. And so what happened is this maximization is the incentive constraint is going to generate this endogenous leverage constraint. And the leverage, upper bound of leverage is going to be a function of the franchise value. Franchise value will depend upon the spread. So spread is bigger, you can make more money, and the upper bound of leverage is going to be higher. And this leverage multiple is going to be counter-cyclical. There is a big debate about leverage is pro-cyclical or counter-cyclical. Typically, the people who do use the pro-cyclical leverage is they are using the gross asset position. Gross assets including lending to the other banks, like an investment banker, like the asset side is lending to the other big banks. And if you net out all the interbank business, typically the net debt positions, net assets, then it is going to be typically counter-cyclical. And so boom, the net worth drops a lot relative to the debt. As a result, leverage multiple is going to, during the crisis, the net worth drops faster than debt. And so that's what we have. And anticipated run, when the people are anticipating run, actually the spread is going down. The reason is the franchise value is conditional on survival. If you don't survive, the franchise value starts falling. And you can see when the Lehman collapsed, a lot of people, before the Lehman collapsed, the Lehman's price starts falling because of their anticipating they start doubting the survival of the Lehman's. And then the higher the probability of bank run, the franchise value, excess return on assets is lower, and the franchise value is lower, and the leverage multiple is lower. And so if the run happens, net worth is zero, and no existing bank can survive. And only new bank is going to start coming in. So this aggregate condition is constantly done. You can actually aggregate it up across the entire banking sector. Basically, what matters is aggregate net worth positions of the banking sector, which partly consists with the continuing guys, sigma fraction of continuing business. This is the return on equities, and this is the promised return to the depositors. And when on top of that, there is a newcomers. And so the absence of run, this is the kind of standard financial accelerator model. Putting the emphasis is on the bank balance sheet channels instead of business balance sheet channel, but the distinction is kind of blur. So, and but if you have a run, then what happens is the depositor stops rolling over the debt. This depositor can include all the short-term financing lenders, like repos and everything. And so then the banker have to sell the assets. But when they sell the assets to the household is not as good as bankers. Therefore, asset price falls. And the big chunk of rate of return is actually the the realized assets return. And the realized assets return drop enough, the banker is going to be bankrupt. The Guidos and Luigi's paper, they are looking at, they are not going to bankrupt completely, but drops a lot. This one is going to go wiped out completely. And if you look at the credit cycle paper, actually there is equivalent like that. So all the farmer is wiped out, only gatherer survive, and when gatherer hold the entire assets and forever, the price is low. And so bank run equivalent exists even in the credit cycle model, actually. But it does depend upon previous levels of leverage multiple, because the coverage rate depends upon how much debt you carry from last period. And after you collapse, so what is going to happen? Asset price is going to be first, the entire assets is held by the household, and then slowly the banking sector recover slowly through the new entry of the bankers and internal accumulation of new bankers. And so this is using the household Euler equation for the equity to compute the asset price. But what is the probability of bank run? And we are going. So partly it's a fundamental. How likely the coverage rate becomes less than 1. So bank may fail if there is a bank run. And that's the fundamental part. But then you have a two equilibrium, complete bank run versus the no bank run. And the probability of which one happens, we use the sunspot. Basically, this is the previously we have a paper AR, and then I presented at Tokyo University, and Michi Kantori said, you don't have to apologize too much. and multiple equilibria, you can use the sunspot. So we just use the sunspot, basically the fundamental times the sunspot. So if and only fundamental is bad enough so that the multiple equilibria exist, bank run equilibrium exists, and sunspot, that's the probability of the bank run. And so that's the model. Okay, and the rest of them is relatively standard, like a new Keynesian version. Output is produced by capital and labor, and output is either consumed or invested. This is the cross economy. And as the equity price should be the same as marginal cost of investment, or the inverse of marginal return on investment. So you can relate the investment and the Q. And then the monopolist producer is setting the price subject to the cost of nominal price adjustment, like a Rothenberg way we use, because it's simplest. And then the producer is accommodating to demand as much as they like, the buyer likes, because of the price is exceeding marginal cost. And New Keynesian Phillips curve is basically coming from this Rothenberg style adjustment of price. And the monetary policy is a very simple Taylor rule. And the capital quality shock, we use the AR1 process, which is pretty consistent because of capital knockdown is going to persist the next period. And you have an extra capital quality shock. It has a pretty big effect on the balance sheet. Okay, this is the calibration part, which is not my comparative advantage, actually. I might have told you before, but when I went to Minnesota, I asked Prescott, should I do calibration? He said, no. You do what you are good at it. So since then, I don't do the calibration much. And this is all done by Andrea and Mark. And I only listen to what they did. And concerning the cost, this part is relatively standard. Like the discount factor Frisch elasticity is 2, and elasticity of investment supply is a quarter, and good supply and the capital share is 1/3. Depreciation rate is 22.5% per quarter. This is a quarter model, by the way. And the other cost is relatively non-standard, which is like how much you can steal the money for the banker. 20%, is it big or small? We don't have a good idea. So what we did is try to hit the leverage to the 10. So asset size is 10 times as big as net worth. And survival rate and the newcomers' endowment will affect the spread. We use the spread to be 1.3% between bank assets and liability. And so it's the other parameter, and this is actually 0.2, sorry, 0.05 is 0.2. And, so this is relatively standard, and when you use the size of the shock, of this exogenous shock, capital quality shock, you can match roughly the output volatilities and investment volatility and consumption and labor supply volatilities. Not too bad. So, okay, so how the economy look like? The source of the shock is a capital quality shock. So capital quality dropped by 1%. And then what is going to happen? And this run threshold means if capital quality shock is 2%, then the run equilibrium exists. And so this go up means even smaller the capital quality shock, additional kick is enough to generate the run. So this is the run threshold, and then run probability in steady state is like a 0.5% per quarter, which is like a 2% per year. And but when the run probability capital quality shock hits, the net worth drops, and the leverage multiple gets bigger. Then what happens is the run probability goes from 0.5 to 1.3 or 5%. It's almost like a 0.5. So it's go up 2.5 increase in run probability. That will generate the risk spread between the banker's borrowing rate, the deposit interest rate. This is the excess return, sorry. But there is also another, the difference between promised return and the risk-free rate. And this also go up too. So what you see is the bankers suffers because of the capital quality shock. So capital quality shock means asset quality deteriorate, but the liability side is non-contingent, so net worth drops like 25%, and that will make the investment drops, and despite of leverage is going up, and output drops, and the inflation rate is going down. So this is the standard bank balance sheet channel, but the additional kick is coming from the bank run probability becomes small to rather significant. And if you shut down this bank run probability, say the arrival rate of the sunspot is 0, then actually the red dotted line is impulse response. Basically, if you don't take account the probability of bank run adjustment, the drop in net worth is lower, and the investment doesn't drop as much, and the output drop is mitigated. So it's in terms of the kick, actually the run probability is a big chunk of the propagations, and run probability is endogenous. Is actually the important channels, and so you can think of this run as the sort of probability of the coverage rate may become less than 1, and also sunspot. But everybody is choosing the leverage multiple without taking account impact on probability of run. So we call it this as a run externality. When they choose the leverage multiple, they don't take account it will affect the coverage rate next period and how much the net worth asset price drops. And so that is the source of the inefficient high leverage. And it's probably bigger than the typical the fire sale externality. It's a kind of fire sale externality, but it goes through the impact on probability of run. And if you shut down the impact on probability of run, you can see the effect is much smaller. And this is actually the probability of run is become positive, and the run actually happens. So this is you hit the shock, and the threshold shock is this one. So what we did is first hit the shock, and then we hit the second, third shock simultaneously, 3 consecutive shock of about 1%. And if you hit 3 times, you enter into the multiple equilibria region. And if actually the run happens, basically the banking system temporarily collapses. So net worth becomes 0, basically, for the existing bankers. And the recovery is coming from the new entry of the new bankers. And during this recovery phase, leverage is very, very high. As a result, the run probability continues to be high. The reason is once the banking system collapses and they are limping and slowly recovering, that period is still dangerous. As a result, people are expecting high probability of run, and that will slow down the recovery quite a bit. So again, the endogenous reaction of run probability is an important source for the slow recovery after the actual run happens. And if you have a flexible price, its propagation is a little smaller, but still significant. And the source of nonlinearity typically is coming from borrowing constraint is binding or not. But in our case, because of the precautionary saving behavior, the kink is not that big, actually. We don't see too many source of the nonlinearity coming from the borrowing constraint binding or not. The big one is actually run is happening or not. So if the capital quality shock is bad enough, the run equilibrium arises. At that point, a lot of things has a distinct jumps, and this has creating the big nonlinearity. So we consider like a possibility of run and create the big externality through the run externality, as well as big nonlinear reaction of the economy. And so probably the fire sale externality is important, but nonetheless, actually, through the endogenous adjustment of the bank run, it is propagated even more. And in terms of policies, this is actually the work of art by Andrea. So Andrea worked pretty hard to get the things looks comparable to the data. So what we did is basically we hit the shock in the fourth quarter of 2007, and then keep hitting the quality shock so that the investment reaction of the model and the data is sort of comparable. This is how investment collapse and our model is exactly on top of each other because of construction. Basically, we try to keep hitting the investment capital quality shock so that the investment reaction is comparable to until the third quarter. And then first quarter of 2008, run actually happens. We are in the region of run equilibrium exists. And then actual run happens. Our model says the equity price of the bank is going to be zero. It's not really zero, but it did drop a lot. So you can say first order approximation, we hit. So this is the financial stocks equity index, S&P Finance. So our model says the equity is completely wiped out, and the spread is going to shoot up, and also GDP collapse, and the labor collapse, and consumption drops. But you can see the recovery in data is slower than model, and perhaps the partly other labor market friction and other things are kicking in. And if you have a no runs, so just capital quality shock with the bank balance sheet channel, the propagation is not that, you don't see that deep recession or slow recoveries. So in this sense, we think the bank run is going to be a major source of the propagations, and especially the financial crisis time. And finally, I will make a small remark on the public policy. The typical message of bank run is the deposit insurance. Like the diamond model, deposit insurance works perfectly. In our case, it's complete disaster because of if you do the deposit insurance, then the bankers steal the money like crazy. And somebody told me like Bulgaria, they introduced the deposit insurance. It was a disaster. Something similar happens in our model. Actually, you can put the leverage restrictions, like a capital requirement for bankers. There is a trade-off. It will reduce the likelihood of bank run, but the cost is banker is better than household, so it will reduce the efficiency of the financial system. Of course, the lender of last resort, like in this case, lender is actually buying equity during the crisis, buyer of the private paper in the crisis time, reduce the bank of likelihood of run, but actually increase the leverage. So you are actually chasing the moving target. So all of them have some pros and cons. We haven't done yet the optimal policy in this context, and we are actually start thinking about this. But the key part is fire sale externality, and so that's currently we are working on. So that's my presentation. Yeah.
What shocks trigger?
Capital quality shock.
Capital quality shock.
Yeah, capital quality.
Just to understand the financial crisis.
Yeah, the capital quality shock may not be that big, but if the capital quality shock, say 1% hit, and the net worth drops because of leverage, like a 25%, and then little more shock is enough to trigger the bank run.
Whether you can say capital quality shocks trigger the reason of
but you can see before the crisis, everyone knows there are some fishy things going on in mortgage market. And so in this sense, if you lend to the wrong place, then the return is not that good. But you don't have the financial crisis has two components. One is deteriorating the fundamentals. But then another trigger is the bank run. And so it's like a negative bubble. So if the asset price collapses enough, all the bunker is wiped out, and then bunker takes a long time to recover. As a result, the low price can justify itself. So that's what we have. But the negative bubble doesn't show up always. And also, negative bubble doesn't always exist. So if the fundamental is strong enough, the bank run equilibrium doesn't exist. So it's like a cone keyhole has a feature like a danger zone, enter into danger zone, and the fundamental deterioration is causing the economy enter into the danger zone. And but by having the full-blown macro model, you can talk about trade-off of the various policies, and that's probably the benefit of developing such kind of model. Yeah.
So you said that one of the key mechanisms in the model is that the agents are not taking into account the impact of the leverage.
Yeah. So what we see is when the banker is going to choose how much to leverage, and they are taking account the coverage rate. Like when you become conservative, coverage rate is higher. Therefore, you can actually don't have to pay the high interest rate to the depositors. But they are not taking account impact on P itself. The reason is as long as you are doing something similar to others, a local under symmetric neighborhood of the symmetric equilibrium, you cannot change the existence of the bank run. Because the existence of bank run is dominated by the resale price, or the fire sale price. And the fire sale price depends upon aggregate condition, not yours. And that's why we have a run externality. Basically, the banker choosing the portfolio choice of the risky assets and the leverage, they don't take account impact on the bank run probability. And
I'm curious whether you can speculate that suppose you have that omega parameter.
Yeah.
If we were to make it a function of this leverage.
Yeah, but omega this is the function of the leverage. So fundamental component, the probability, like a coverage rate on the condition of run becomes less, it's not 100%, is a function of leverage. And so this is the endogenous part. And this part is exogenous, but the movement of the run probability is coming from the endogenous part, not the omega itself. Yeah?
Our president that we have discussed is really big on this financial stability. So something that comes in your model, tax on leverage. Yes.
Because of the run externality, so everybody is not choosing the leverage properly because of they don't think they can affect the systemic run. And this is all systemic run.
Sure.
Yeah.
This is a problem of time.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
there are two stages here.
Yeah.
There is before anything happens.
Yeah.
And when the quality shock happens.
Yeah, that's right.
The run happens.
Yeah.
And
Simultaneous.
tax leverage before the quality shock happens.
Yes. So this is.
Leverage after the quality shock.
It doesn't help. So you have to do it. It will affect the probability of run. It's about tomorrow. So this is the probability of run happens at t plus 1. And so by restricting today's leverage, will affect tomorrow's coverage rate, and it will affect tomorrow's the probability of run happening tomorrow, conditional on today's information. And each individual choosing the phi t they don't take account that impact on the run probability. That's the source of the run externality. Okay. Does this make sense? Or
Yeah, no, I was just saying that
yeah.
it seems that if you do it after the quality shock,
Yeah. Then it's too late.
too late, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And even if the run hasn't happened, it's still true.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it's
So the things is it's like during the even without run, actually the leverage multiple is going up because of network is dropping faster than the dead. And then you don't want to chopping up this one. Yeah, because of if you do that, then the economy tanks even further. So what you have to do is beforehand, like not after the shock. Yes.
Thank you very much.